You're listening to the Master Passive Income Podcast Network. Welcome to the Master Passive Income Show. My name's Dustin Heiner, and I'm here to help you quit that J-O-B, that just over broke job, by investing in real estate. And in today's show, I'm super pumped to share with you a strategy that you can use to make 10 times the amount of money from your real estate investing if you do it successfully and you do it the right way. And I am bringing on an expert that's going to help us to do it and how you can do it as well. All right, let's start the show.
Welcome to the Master Passive Income Podcast, where we talk about investing in real estate with a special focus on making enough money so you can quit your job and live the dream life. And now, here is your host, Dustin Heiner.
What's up? What's up? Super blessed as always to have you here with me on the show. Now, you guys know I am a big believer in community, in networking, in helping other people to invest in real estate. That's why I have my free podcast here, the free YouTube channel. I have my conferences that I put on. I put on all this stuff because I want to meet more people. Honestly, it's like, it does help that I'm an extrovert. Sorry, all you introverts out there. But I'm definitely an extrovert, but at the same time, I've seen in my life that as I help more people and connect with more people and work with more people, we all do so much better in our lives. And plus, it's just better having friends around you. So today I went to the local Tennessee Real Estate Investor Association. It's TENREA is what they call themselves. You know, TN is Tennessee and REIA, R-E-I-A. And I went to their meetup today. They were so much fun. They were awesome. I met some awesome, not just real estate investors. There were real estate investors. There were contractors there, general contractors. There were other investors. And what was great was all of us were gathered around the idea of, hey, let's all help each other out. Let's all connect with each other. And it was super, super fun. And the reason why I bring up that I went to the Tennessee Real Estate Association investor meetup was because I live out what I tell you to do. And what's great is as I was talking to all these people there, these other real estate investors and realtors and contractors and insurance agents, like all these people in the business, what's great is, I'll be completely honest and say that all of us, we get a little insecure. We get a little insecure about ourselves and wondering if somebody's going to look at us thinking that we're not good enough, or man, look at that person. They've done this in their business, or they've done that in their business. We start comparing ourselves to other people, and I completely get it. I do that as well. And I start thinking, man, what have I done? What have I done? And even podcasting, we start comparing ourselves. I think, man, look at that guy. He's got this amazing podcast. And man, I wish I had a podcast that was as big as his, or what. We just start comparing ourselves with other people. And that's something we need to not do. We need to realize that every single person is thinking that exact same thing. Like if you go to a real estate investor meetup, you'll be thinking, man, I wonder, look at that person, how good they are. They're investing, and, start feeling inadequate yourself. Well, I've done that. We all feel that. But honestly, everybody feels those types of thoughts. Now, there are some people that are complete jerks, that they think they're hot stuff and they start walking around and, they don't treat everybody the best. Well, just steer clear of those people. You'll see them coming a mile away. But honestly, everybody else, normal, regular, everyday people like you and me, we are just concerned about feeding our family, concerned about, making it to the next day, or, maybe doing something in our lives that's going to help our families. We're just more concerned about that and less concerned about comparing ourselves to other people or looking at that person and saying, hey, they're not good enough. Nobody thinks like that. We all think like that in our heads, comparing ourselves to other people and feeling inadequate or, not as good as somebody else. But everybody thinks that. And so we need to get out of our maybe comfort zone, our shells, and actually get out there and meet people. So if you have a local real estate investor meetup, I'm sure there are some all over the place. In fact, we have the income builder clubs in 4 different states, 4 different cities. We have one in Atlanta, another one in Charlotte, another one in Phoenix, another one in Denver. And these are meetups. These are free meetups. You just come and hang out with people and get around people who are doing what it is that you want to do. And you're going to meet some amazing people and create friends along the way. So I do exactly what I'm telling you to do. And another great thing is you need to also, on top of go to these local meetups, which are great, and you also need to come to the Income Building Live conference that I'm putting on here in Nashville. It's coming up very fast, March 19th through the 21st, 2026. It's early bird discount right now. If you are not getting around the right people that are going to encourage you, build you up, get you, even just coach you on how to do this, it's going to be so much harder. It's so much easier when other people are around you. So come to Income Building Live. It is here in Nashville. It's going to be amazing. It's right in my hometown. And you're going to come hang out with me and hundreds of other real estate investors. And right now, the tickets are at the lowest price they're going to be. They're going to go up. The early bird price is going to go up. And you need to look at any expense that you're going to be paying for something like this as an investment into yourself. Trust me, I have had so many people that have come to my conferences and have changed their life dramatically because they invested in themselves. Just like if you go to college, you're going to invest in yourself. I mean, how much did you pay when you went to college or for your entire college education? 20, 30, 40, $50,000, maybe more, $100,000. And that is to get a piece of paper. You don't automatically get income from that. Well, when you come to the Income Building Live conference, you're going to be around the right people and you are going to change your life so that you can start investing and get financial freedom because you're in the right room. You're around the right people, getting the best networking and information and education on how to invest in real estate. I want you to be there. Use the promo code Dustin, and you're going to get my discount because you come to and listen to my podcast here. But I'm super pumped to bring on one of my friends who's going to be a speaker at Income Building Live. He is a fantastic real estate investor. In fact, the things that he does is what we do in our investing. He is such a fantastic guy as well. Super awesome person and investor. And he's going to show us how he invests in short-term properties in smaller markets, but then making tons and tons of money doing it. This is a strategy that we do in our real estate investing. It's long-term, short-term, mid-term, and co-living. We buy and hold real estate. It is so amazing that you have so many options, so many great people, but I'm bringing awesome people like my guest to Income Building Live. You need to be here with me as well. All right, let me jump into today's show where I'm going to have my guest, my good friend, come on and share with us how he does his short-term properties and is crushing it in the income building game. All right, here we go. Let me bring on Kirby Atwell from the podcast Living Off Rentals. Here we go. Kirby, thank you so much for being here, buddy.
Dustin, it is awesome to be here. It's such an honor. I'm a huge fan of yours, and it's always great to talk to you, buddy.
Yeah, it's great that you and we're real estate investors, number one. Number two, we podcast too. So I love talking to other real estate owners or investors that podcast as well. Man, okay, so catch us up. So you've been on our show, I think at least 2 times now, and hopefully our team will remember to link in the description to go back and listen to it. So you want to listen to Kirby's story of how he got investing and everything. You were in the Army, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I did 6 years after West Point.
That's what I was just going to say. You went to West Point, got in the Army, but now you're an investor, which is super awesome.
Yeah.
But catch us up from it was probably a year or 2 since we last chatted.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, when I left the Army, in case people aren't familiar with my story a little bit, it was a real challenge for me in the beginning. I thought I envisioned this straight line to success, and that's not exactly what it turned out to be. I spent a lot of time flipping properties and kind of in wholesaling, doing different things that I thought would make quick cash. And then I realized this need for, income, like income producing properties, if I was going to be successfully unemployed, like you talk about. And so I transitioned a little bit to long-term rentals. And then in 2017 was really when I got into this current strategy of really high cash flowing, mostly multi-unit short-term rentals, small multi-units, duplexes, triplexes. And so that's what we've been doing. And over the last year and a half since we last talked, we've added a few more deals to our portfolio. But the crazy thing is I had to go through like a decompression process after flipping. Like when you're flipping, you're in this constant hustle mode of like you got to do the next deal. It's almost like a junkie who like needs the next hit. You know, it's like
It
this deal's
is.
ending. I got to find my next deal. I got to get it, you know, because that's what you're living off of. And so you're probably doing deals that you shouldn't be doing because you need to do like 4 deals a month to sustain the business. Um, and so I transitioned from that to what we're doing now. And I got to a point, once you get to that magical place where all of a sudden you can live off the income from your properties, then all of a sudden, like you don't have to be in acquisition mode anymore. It's kind of like I just do a deal because I want to do the
Because
deal.
it's a good deal. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's an awesome deal. It's fun. It's just adding more wealth to the portfolio and more cash flow. And so we've been in that since it was 2021 when I pulled the string and left my corporate job. While I was, you know, and at that point we had about 8 short-term rental units. And since then we've got up to 39 short-term rental units. And we just keep adding a property here and there as we go. And it's very low stress. And it just gives us the lifestyle that we want. I live here on a farm that's in Indiana, and we've got 4 kids with a newborn, and spend a lot of time with the family, and just live kind of the ideal, our version of lifestyle by design. And it's been as a result of these properties.
Well, congratulations on the new child.
Thank
That's
you.
exciting. You have 4 now,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. We're trying to catch up to you, but you keep having more. So
We're
uh,
praying for another one. Yeah, it'd be blessed to get. We have 5
that's
now.
amazing.
We'd be blessed to get another one. So
That's
I'm
that's
gonna try to
that's
keep ahead of you. So you have 39 now, and weren't you
yeah.
down in Florida? Did you you built some in Florida?
Exactly. Yeah. So our goal was to get to financial freedom in one market first, because I'm a big advocate for building economies of scale and not trying to like just buy in every single market and, you know, spread yourself too thin. So we picked Northwest Indiana first, which is where the majority of our properties are. But then once we got to financial freedom, our goal was to have some in a warm climate, kind of like we were talking about before we started recording here. Um, it's pretty miserable here in the winter time. It's beautiful 3 seasons out of the year, but man, there's one season that you don't want to be here. So we wanted to have some in a warm climate too, and it kind of offsets the seasonality of it too. So we built 2 duplexes down in Florida that follow this same model of economies of scale, still short-term rentals, and they've been doing really well as well.
What city is that in?
They're both in Port Charlotte.
Port Charlotte. Okay.
Yeah,
Where is that
it's
in the Florida map?
Yeah, it's Southwest Florida, so it's near like Fort Myer and Cape Coral,
Oh, got it.
which ironically has been the worst hit in terms of values over the last couple of years. Like it was like right after we finished building, the values have dropped off quite a bit. But the beautiful thing about this is that if you buy a really high cash flowing property, I don't really care. Like the value could go to zero tomorrow. I'm still getting just as much cash flow on a monthly basis. And I know 20 years from now, it's going to be worth at least double. So
At least double.
yeah. So, I mean,
100%.
yeah. So timing wasn't, you know, in our favor, but I don't try to time the market. I just buy based on sound fundamentals.
Well, you're going to be happy, like you said, in 20 years. And, you know, if it goes up, you're going to be happy as well. I mean, so in
Yeah.
the end, if you're doing cash flow, which I know you and I both invest for is cash flow.
hmm
And what's amazing, and big reason why, so you've come to the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, you've spoke at the conference this year. You're going to be on the main stage speaking too, which I'm super pumped to have you there.
Thank you.
And at the conference, it was the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. And then I realized 2 things. Number one, when somebody invests just for wealth, they think, let me just buy a house and then it's going to go up in value and then I get wealth. You do not automatically get income out of it.
hmm
And I want to coach people. I want to show people that you don't have to work for somebody else. I think having a job is your enemy. Like that's your enemy, not your boss.
Yeah.
And like you don't got to
Yeah.
hurt your boss or anything, but it's like beholden it to a job or somebody else. That's your enemy. Meaning let's go away from that. Let's run away from the enemy. And
Mhm.
so how to do it is get income
Yeah.
from other sources that you're not having to work, your property is doing it for you. And so when you build a business, real estate business, investing for income, you always get wealth. If you go for wealth, you don't automatically get income. Maybe in the future you will. So invest for
hmm
income right now, then you're already going to get wealth in the future, just like you're saying. And so the other thing was I wanted to build a community of real estate investors and then just already the already existing community, let's bring everybody together. But then I realized, man, people were coming every year, but they weren't doing anything. They would come, they get encouraged, but then the life
Mm.
comes and gets in the way. And then they wouldn't do anything. So I was like, how do I change this? And then I realized instead of focusing on the community, let's focus on the person. Let's help that one person be an income builder. And so I changed the name to Income Building Live because I wanted myself, number one, but everybody else to realize the goal is financial freedom. The goal is freedom in
Mm.
life. And then that's where money comes in because you need income. And I love how you don't invest like most people would with short-term properties. Let's go in Orlando right next to
Yeah.
Disneyland or Disney World and get an Airbnb, or go in like right in the center of Nashville and pay, like say $2 million for a condo or something like that. You don't do that, but you do short-term properties in a different way. We've covered a good amount of it on past episodes. Give us a high-level overview of where you invest, how you invest. And I want to pause for a quick second and share that honestly, I really want you to invest in real estate. Now, my new goal is to help 1 million people invest in real estate. So, two things I would ask from you. Number one, if you get anything out of this episode, please share it with somebody else. Just say, hey, check out Dustin and Master Passive Income. He really wants to help 1 million people to invest in real estate. That's number one. Number two, I want to get you to invest in real estate. Get my real estate investing course absolutely for free. Text the word rental, RENTAL, to 33777. Rental to 33777. I'll literally give you my course, show you how to find an area of the country to invest, how to build the business first. I always talk about that, and how to find the right properties, how to make sure you're getting experts to do the work for you, and scale the business to where you're making $250 or more in passive income. Scale it to quit your job. I'll literally get to you, or go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course. Obviously, it'll be in the description, but I really, really want you to invest in real estate, because the more that actual, normal, everyday people own real estate that are good landlords, the better everybody's life gets.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you're talking there, it just brought up so many different things for me because it's so true. I'm a huge believer in that 95% of people have the order mixed up in terms of wealth building versus income building. And they don't even realize it because they're taught like just work a job, put money in a 401k, and then hopefully one day it'll be worth a whole bunch more and you live off that income. In the meantime, it doesn't pay you anything. So I talk to people who make incredible salaries all the time, and they're like petrified because they're like, I'm in a tech industry, or I'm in this industry that might get replaced by AI. And if my income goes away, I've built this lifestyle that I can't support. I'm going to have to just start drawing on this money that I have saved up, and who knows how long it'll last. So instead, if you took that money you were putting in your 401k and bought some high income properties, you're building an income that for the rest of your life is going to be there. So all of a sudden you can quit your job, free up 40 plus hours a week, which is probably tens of thousands of hours for the rest of your life. And you don't have to worry about a retirement. At that point, you probably could build a whole lot more wealth because you have so much capacity, but like you've got the income coming in forever. So I think what you're preaching is it resonates so much with me. But in terms of the types of properties or where we're investing, and you mentioned Orlando, and it's ironic because you and I went to Podfest together, and we stayed at this absolutely gorgeous Airbnb that was like just freshly built a couple years ago.
Huge too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it had all the themed out rooms, had the game room, had the pool. I looked it up. I think it was like close to $2 million for this property. And so I did a TikTok when we were there because I was like, I went through the numbers and I looked at like how much we paid for the property compared to how much it cost. And I compared it to one we bought for $75,000 in Michigan City, Indiana. It was nasty when we bought it, but we put about 100,000 into it. So we're all into it for about 200,000. And we were making way more net cash flow on this $200,000 property than this $2 million property in Orlando, right next to Disney. And it's so counterintuitive, but if you got to look at the everyone thinks that the cost, the price you're paying is commiserate with like the nightly rate and occupancy. And that's just not the case. So if you can find places where there's still population, there's still drivers for people booking, like there's travel for different reasons. People still do vacation in Indiana. I know it sounds crazy, but
there's weddings,
to
there's
Michigan.
deaths, there's graduations,
Exactly.
there's family reunions.
Exactly.
I mean, you name it.
Yeah. So we're still getting bookings, and that drives up the nightly rate and occupancy, but yet it's super, super affordable. And so, we don't have to pay 10 times the amount to be next to Disney, and we're still making really, really good income on a
And
annual basis.
one thing that, and you're touching on occupancy. What I
Hmm.
remember going to our Airbnb, it was
Yeah.
basically an entire subdivision of Airbnbs.
Yeah,
And as we're
exactly.
driving through, we're seeing like what maybe 50, 80 plus homes, and maybe 25%, 20% are occupied. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, like that is just so much money that you're not
Yeah.
making because there's a glut of inventory. So it's
Right.
people are there's so many things to choose from.
Yeah, and it was winter time. I mean, it was like a good time to be in Florida, and yet there was a lot of vacant property sitting there. So,
And so
yeah,
you like, and I'm 100% behind you on this. I'd much rather have, if I need to get a mortgage, I'd much rather $150,000, $200,000 mortgage than like a $600,000 mortgage and
hmm,
making cash flow. Even if I was making the same amount of cash flow on the 600,000 versus the $200,000.
hmm,
I would like, or even just a little bit less on the 200,000. Like, let's say on the 600,000, which is going to be hard to get, but let's say on the $600,000 home, you're able to, let's say, cash flow every month. Let's say, just be generous, $600 a month, which is probably not even possible. But let's just say this, I'm talking about long term rental, $600 a month. And then if I bought a $200,000 home and I was cash flowing $400 a month, do you know I could sleep at night with a $200,000 mortgage when
yeah,
it doesn't
yeah,
get paid. When a $600,000 mortgage doesn't get paid because I don't have it rented, I'm not sleeping at night. I'm like, I got to get that thing
right.
rented. So I'm 100% behind you, and it's just a return on your investment. You have capital out, money that you're buying something for, fixing it up, and but your total money out. You want to make the most money from that money, your return on that investment, and having these maybe tertiary sub markets that are outside of large areas are totally fine. But not even they don't have to be outside of large areas. Like even just in a city that has a decent population, like I
Yeah,
said, people have weddings to go to or reunions or
exactly.
travel for work, whatever it might be. That's why hotels are everywhere because people travel.
Yeah, yeah. I can give you a great example of one we just did that I just feel, I mean, it's like, I don't know why more people aren't adopting this strategy. So we just bought one in the
They
town we
don't
live
listen to
in.
you. They don't listen to Living Off Rentals podcast. That's why they
Well,
don't do
it's
it.
it's not as sexy,
It's
if you
not.
got the one with the pool in the
Hey, I
game room,
love boring
yeah,
money that comes in. A lot of boring money. I love that.
exactly, yeah, yeah. So we just bought this one in Valparaiso, where we live
I'm
in
sorry. Where was that?
Valparaiso, Indiana. So that's where
Okay.
Valpo University is. So it's a decent sized university, but there's a cool downtown area. But it's Northwest Indiana, about an hour outside of Chicago. And so we bought a house. It kind of looks like a big Victorian house, but it's 5 units. It's been divided. It was divided up, and it was long-term rentals, but needed a full rehab. So we bought it for 402 and put 200 into it, which this was one of the more expensive ones that we've done. But I wanted to do one a little bit more units and more expensive because we wanted the big tax write-off last year in 2025 with the 100% bonus depreciation. So we bought it, put that money into it, and my estimates were super low. It was $120 per night for each unit, and then a 56% occupancy. So I was like way like under the comps, but that's $600 a night total, which because each unit adds up, and our occupancy has been way over 56%. So we rehabbed it, listed it, and it's just been performing really well. But then at the end of the year, we were able to do the 100% bonus depreciation. I just did the cost seg study, and it's $173,139. That's my write-off
Off of
against
the
our.
2025 taxes. Love it.
Yeah, exactly. Just from one deal, because it was about just over $600,000 worth of basis. And then you can write off, typically it's like 25 to 30% of
Hmm.
that. And so it worked out to be 173,000. And I mean, in real dollars,
That's
that
huge.
saves us. Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know,
At
like,
least 50, 60 grand, probably.
yeah, yeah,
Something at
exactly.
least that. And then you
Yeah,
have many more, like at least 4 or 5 more years of depreciation on that asset. Well,
exactly.
on top of the cash
Yeah.
flow.
On top of, yeah, we're making over 4,000 a month of cash flow after all our expenses and set asides for maintenance, everything. So, yeah, it just like it boggles my mind why somebody would pay, $1 million for this high-end single family vacation rental in the mountains that doesn't cash flow because they're like, well, someday it's going to go up in value, hopefully. And meanwhile, you could be making several $1,000s a month in net cash flow. So,
Yeah, 100% right. Now, are there still places that you can buy properties for, let's say, $150,000, maybe put 40 grand into it? Let's say under 200 grand, where you have a decent short-term property where you can also find somebody to manage it. Because I know you built that amazing business that you also manage, which you save a ton of money too, and you also can control everything. But at the same time, not everybody wants to do that. Um,
sure.
are there good areas that you've seen or good cities that you've seen that still have that?
Oh man, a lot of them. Primarily, Midwest is like the lowest hanging fruit, just because the purchase price compared to income level. But I mean, just some that come to mind that recent members of my program have done is Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, which is on the Upper Peninsula, right on the border of Canada and Michigan. And there's so much traffic going through there. There's so much construction going on, but the average purchase price is like 160. And so, someone I work with bought a 2 unit that was almost turnkey for like 100 and I think it was like 170,000, something like that. And it's the occupancy there is super high. And so that's the type of place. Manistee, Michigan's another one. Just outside of Akron, Ohio, near the NFL Football Hall of Fame. Somebody just bought a 3 unit that's turnkey. Actually, he's a member of RubeCon. I met him at RubeCon. Great guy. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different like little pockets again, just typically outside of larger cities or, you know, um, just different drivers for bookings. But you can buy really affordable properties that work really well for this.
So I got a curveball question for you. Have you thought about buying and coaching? I know your kids are a little bit younger. Coaching your kids to buy a property and getting them to buy the first property, and where they're a part of the entire process, so that they're going to have that as, man, shoot, that's going to be, let's say they're 16, get their first, 17, whatever, get their first property, and they could do it over and over again. My goodness, they're going to be able to be successfully employed way before we ever did,
Yeah, yeah,
or
exactly.
never employed. They're going to be never
Yeah,
employed, is what they're going to be.
yeah. Well, that's what I'm hoping they pick up. I mean, my oldest is 8, so he is starting to ask questions about like, work and what I do and stuff like that a little bit. But I'm hoping they catch on to the fact that I just always took it for granted. Like, yeah, you go get a 9 to 5 job. That's what everyone does. But you can have your money work for you. And if you recognize that early on, man, and you can have other people's money work for you, you will just be so far away, so far ahead of the
Ahead.
game.
Let me,
Yeah.
so today, so if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see my personal left side, the right side of the screen. There's nothing on the wall because we had to move everything. I'm going to turn the camera. My son, he's 13 years old, fell through the ceiling. He was crawling up in the attic and putting things away and was rushing to come back down and watch TV. Whoop, the camera's off. And anyways, he fell through it. So I'm fixing it. And we are at Lowe's buying paint and buying all that stuff. So I'm coaching them or teaching them how to do all that stuff, just really manly type stuff. And anyways, we started talking about, he goes, "Hey dad, when am I going to buy my next or my first property?" I think he's 13, almost 14. He goes, "I want to buy my property before my sister, Ellie. She bought hers at 16 years old. I want to beat her. I want to buy it at 15." I said, "Well, let's talk about it." So anyways, we started chatting, but here's one thing I also did for them. I love tangible assets. Real estate's one, guns and ammo. In fact, most people wouldn't know this because you don't see it, but I have a pistol. I just keep it. It's on my desk. And my kids are old enough now. They are great shots and they don't play with guns. Plus, this one's not loaded. But anyways, I just love holding on the pistol. So guns and ammo, that's tangible. Gold and silver, absolutely tangible. Very tangible things. I'm not a big fan of Bitcoin personally. I think people love it, but I just want something tangible that I can't lose or get taken away just by electricity off.
Mm.
So about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I taught them, hey, we could put our money in a savings account, be fine, get 3% or whatever, or we can put our money in silver. Silver's a little less price wise than gold. And at the time it was $18 an ounce, 18 to $20 an ounce. And they were buying it. And so he put a total from the time he started buying it, like $2,000 into silver. Now it's worth $7,400, like 3, 4 years later. And so I'm like, Xander, you could take that $7,400 and you got some more savings. Like, we'll put all that and we'll buy a house. And he's like, yes. So also one quick thing, because I'll give you a little tip too on top of that. My kids are editing my podcasts, like all the shows that are underneath the
Mm,
podcast network here at Master Passive Income. They edit the show, so instead of me paying somebody else, I pay them, and they're using that to make money to buy real estate.
nice. Yeah. And then they can, open IRAs and like start doing other things too now that they have a stream of income. So yeah,
Yeah. And a big thing
absolutely.
too for me was to help them to realize that basically comes down to active income versus passive income.
Mm,
Actively, if you don't work, just like flipping a house, oh my goodness, that's so much work. And you have to you have to keep doing it. And so I just
yeah.
wanted them to understand it's passive versus active.
Yeah, absolutely. So smart. So smart. Your kids are going to be so well set up in the future. It's amazing.
One other quick thing. So whenever our kids they didn't really make money, but like, they got money for birthdays or Christmas or, whatever. Ever since they were born, we would have them and teach them the value of money. And so 50%, 50 would always go to savings.
Mm,
10% of the whole would go to giving to God. 20% goes to mommy for responsibilities because everybody has responsibilities they got to pay. And so that goes to mommy. And then the other 20% they get to spend. And so
mm,
how he bought silver was that 50% that he just kept saving all his life. We made him save. He bought silver with it and now it's turned into more. But it was that also that 20% that we say, hey, we got to pay for electricity, we got to pay for food, we got to pay for house. And we wanted them to realize that even though you got $100 or $10 or
yeah.
whatever, there's still some responsibilities and setting them up in the future. And so that they're going to actually value and respect money is one big
Mm,
thing that I wanted them to have.
yeah. Yeah, that's so great. And one thing I've noticed too is that it really is kind of like a muscle. Like you have to even at a small I think everyone has this idea that, well, I'm not making enough money to save now, but once in the future, when I make enough money, then I'll start giving, then I'll start saving. I'll do all these other things. Right now, I'm just going to pay my bills and live my life. But it's like you will not do that. If you don't do it at a small level, you're not going to do it at a large level. It's way harder to start saving thousands of dollars when you're making more money than it is to just do it as a practice. It's just what you do. It's like going to the gym. So, yeah, I love that.
That's awesome. And you're going along the exact same lines. When I read the Bible talks about the parable of the talents. There's three different servants. One had 10 talents, one had five, one had, I think it was two or one talent. But the one that had a lot, or 10, doubled it. And the master, God, was happy with him and gave him all even more. And the one that had half doubled it, five doubled it, and he got even more. But the one that got one just
Yeah.
buried the talent and didn't even put in he said, you didn't even put my money in the bank. Well, he had his taken away. And so even in the parable, the understanding of it is even when you have very, very little, if you're not even faithful with that, how are you going to get any more? And so you got to start at the very young age. And what's so funny is my kids, even though they get 20%, that they get to spend themselves on,
Hmm.
buy toys or, whatever it might be. I remember, I think it was probably about 4 years ago when my oldest son, he was 12 at the time, 11 or 12. And he says he comes back from Walmart with his mom and kid or siblings. He says, Dad, I'm mad at you. I'm like, why? He's kind of joking. So he's not upset, like
Yeah.
mad, but he's
Right.
joking. Said, Dad, we noticed that everything that we wanted to buy was terrible and we would waste our money because it would fall apart. So we didn't buy any toys at Walmart. I was like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly and so now they realize the value of money because they're not just throwing away. I'm not just, I'm making them spend their money. And then in the end, they realize that money is just a tool. It's a means to an end and how to spend it wisely.
Yeah. Yeah. You're teaching them to manage it, which is the key, and it's not just gonna show up out of
Yeah.
nowhere.
So let me ask you this. Okay, so I know Ellie has her property. She wants to buy another one, which we're probably going to do pretty soon.
Hmm.
Elias wants to buy one, and I was thinking. So I have a lot of my properties in and around the Akron area, or not a lot, but of my properties, a portion of them are in Akron. And so I was thinking, or Akron surrounding areas, and I was thinking, I want to get into new areas. I want to do other things than just stay where it's comfortable. We invest in 5 different states, but I was like, maybe I should start a brand new area, and then maybe I should help my kids do that short term. I love short term. I think short term's great. I think midterm's fantastic as well. Same thing with long term. Like all these different ways to make money are just fantastic. If you were to give any advice to Elias or Xander, the two that are wanting to buy their property really fast, is
Yeah.
like areas and how to either financing or how to find the right properties and all that sort of stuff. How do they get started?
Yeah. Great question. So the ratio that I'm always looking for is the highest combination of nightly rate and occupancy compared to the lowest average purchase price. So you can go on AirDNA and you can plug in any city or town or market, and it'll tell you the average nightly rate and occupancy. And then you can just Google what's the average purchase price in that area. And if you find areas that, again, they're driven up by things like where we're at in Michigan City. We're an hour outside of Chicago and we're right on Lake Michigan. So nightly rate and occupancy is pretty high compared to, I mean, there's properties that sell for 100,000, 200,000. There's also multi-million dollar properties right on Lake Michigan. And so I think those are the areas where there's opportunity in between there because you don't want to buy the multi-million dollar property, but you also don't want to buy like in the worst part of town. So right in between, there's drivers for bookings. It's a desirable place, but yet you can get a really great bargain. And the same $300,000 three unit that's turnkey in Michigan City, in Chicago, an hour away, would be 900,000 or a million. And so those are the types of areas to look for. And where I've seen that work really well is all along the Great Lakes. Milwaukee, just outside of Milwaukee, even up outside of
Even in
Green
wintertime,
Bay.
like people like it seems
Yeah.
cold. Do people
Yeah.
really? Wow,
Well, I think that the thing that we do is this hybrid strategy of midterm and short-term rentals. So in the summertime, we don't give
I
any
like that.
discount because we know we're going to have 100% occupancy at a major premium because there's so much demand and not enough supply. But then when there's a lot more supply than demand, we offer a 20 to 30% discount for 30 plus day stays. And right now we have like 15 different 30 plus day stays happening in the off season when it's the slowest time period, but we really maximize our revenue that way.
That's a great idea. Do you have the ability, and I'm just thinking for YouTube and for functionality of like being able, I like the idea of AirDNA. Would you be able to share your screen and then actually walk us through that process?
Absolutely. Yeah. Let
Oh,
me,
awesome. So if you're watching or listening to this podcast, you definitely got to check out the YouTube channel. We'll put the link in the description so you can actually, I mean, shoot, Kirby is an expert at this. And for us to be able to have him for this time to be able to walk us through, it's gold. So, but yeah, my idea is like, I personally never used Air DNA. I personally love midterm. Um, Short terms are fantastic as well. Like I'm not trying to knock
Mhm.
one or the other, but man, midterm is so great because you have less turnover. And that's one thing I hate. I want it lazy money. When I say lazy,
Yeah.
like boring, I want it
Yeah.
as boring as possible because I don't
That's
want to do any
smart.
work.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, if we can make it, and I like this strategy, maximize in the best months, 100% occupancy, 100% full, a non-vacancy. But then at the off months, let's do midterm. I love that idea. But yeah, so walk me through how would you use AirDNA?
Let me show you it real quick, actually, before I even get into that. These are just 20 or so different markets that people who I work with have just purchased in recently that have done phenomenal deals. I just pulled up like some of our top deals. So Superior, Wisconsin, right near uh, I'm forgetting the other big city right near there, but oh, Duluth, right up here. So Superior is kind of like amazing fundamentals, super affordable, but lots of drivers for bookings. Um, Several around the Milwaukee area. We're here in Valparaiso. My mother-in-law also buys in Valparaiso. Up near Traverse City in Interlachen, Michigan, Kalamazoo. Over here in Canton, Ohio, I mentioned, Dayton, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, just outside of Nashville in
I know
Hermitage.
Hermitage.
So
Yeah, I know Hermitage.
yeah. So not downtown like the typical one everyone thinks of the 4,000 Airbnbs downtown that are all bachelorette, themed, but just outside you can
Bachelorette, you're
buy
right. That's
you can you
those
can
are
just
who actually
yeah.
go to Nashville.
It's like so many of them, and people are suffering there because they're all fighting over the same bookings. Just outside, you can buy one for a tiny fraction that's a small multi-unit that makes way more net cash flow. Holiday Island, another guy from Rubicon, who I work with, who I met at Rubicon. He just bought in Holiday Island, Arkansas, and then Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. So these are just some of the top markets that are just like kind of like affordable markets in areas where it's still the fundamentals just make a ton of sense. And then if you go to AirDNA and you can put in like where we're at, uh, Michigan City. And so what pops up is hopefully Michigan City. Yeah. For some reason, AirDNA sometimes has some issues here, but
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know
pulling up
why.
like Mexico and stuff, which is
Yeah.
interesting. There you
Okay,
go,
here we go.
Michigan. Michigan City,
Michigan.
right there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So it shows you average occupancy of 51%, average daily rate of 348. And so sometimes on the water too, it like drives up the average daily rate a little bit because you've got some really high end stuff. So, I don't take this as gospel, but I see this and I'm like, okay, there's some potential here. Because if you multiply 51% times 348 times 365, you can see that the average annual income is pretty high
Hmm.
in this area. And you can also go out and see the occupancy curve and see like when it, is the peak season, when it's a slow season. So you know when to do when to do midterm rentals and when to do short-term rentals. And then you can just Google average purchase price in Michigan City.
What's
And
$64,000 a year in revenue if you did 350 by 365 at 51%?
okay, yeah. And the average
$65,000. That's a lot.
65 grand. Yeah. And the average purchase price is 230. And that's gone up a lot since I started investing there. I mean, we've seen a lot of appreciation. So then after you find that place, then you really optimize by buying a 3 unit or a 4 unit in that area. So now, it's a little less money per unit because they're attached. But when you start to add up the income that you can get as a short-term rental on 4 separate units, like, I mean, typically it's over 6 figures if you got a 3 or 4 unit on a really affordable property. So,
So you would
so that
suggest, so single family homes are probably okay, but you would say, hey, try to, if you're going to do the work, try to get a duplex or triplex or a fourplex.
that's where the highest net cash flow typically is. It can work with a large single family too, where you can get some pretty nice high cash flow. But the challenge with a large single family is you'll get a huge premium in the summertime because you have big groups, but then in the off season, people don't want to pay a $300 cleaning fee for a large property, and it's typically not big groups. So even if you discount it for small groups, you still got that cleaning fee that you're paying to your cleaner. So that's why I love the versatility of optimizing in both seasons because I can book the whole property, all 4 units together to a large group in the summer, and then in the winter time, I can book out the individual units.
Would you find that the, let's say, $348 average nightly and 51% occupancy, is that a good gauge? Or do you see something like, hey, normally it should be like 250 and maybe 62%? Or like, what would you find is an average that you like to, is as like, this is a benchmark of what we go after?
That's a good question. It's always all three factors always work in tandem. So there's not like a specific, like if it's below 50% occupancy, it's not a good deal because if the average daily rate's super high and it's super affordable, it still makes a ton of
That makes a
sense.
lot of sense because your mortgage
Yeah.
payment would be lower if the mortgage is lower, or to be higher if the mortgage is higher. And so you'd have to make sure you get your expenses. Do you have a total cash flow that you like per month from a, like you buy one property, I want to try to get this amount of cash flow out of it.
Yes. So my rule of thumb is 1% net. So a lot of people talk about the 1% rule for buying long-term rentals. My rule of thumb for buying short-term rentals is 1% net. So after all my expenses, if I buy a $300,000 property, I want to have $3,000 of net cash flow left over. And that's
That's
that's how
every
we
month.
base every month.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
So that's how we base every property, and that's what I advise to people I work with. And it's very difficult to do with a single family home, and it's very difficult, I mean, almost impossible to do in a traditional vacation rental area. But with these small multi-units in affordable areas, that bar is easy to hit. So just to compare it though, I brought up Scottsdale as a comparison. And so you think of Scottsdale, that's the place to buy a short-term rental. People are going there and vacationing. It's 63% occupancy, which is higher than Michigan City. It's a 233 average daily rate, but the average purchase price in Scottsdale is over $1 million. So your combination of occupancy and average daily rate is actually lower than in Michigan City, and you're paying like 5 times as much. So that's why the numbers just don't, and there's not really that many multi-unit properties to choose from in this area. So
And I love the idea. It's like, because the question that I ask is usually the most the easiest question that everybody asks, but the way you answered it is even better, because we need to realize is the income. We started talking about this at the very beginning of the show, is how much money you're making from this property every single month. And so if you're thinking, well, I'm looking at the occupancy rate and then I'm looking at the daily rate, but you also got to account for the expenses. You got to account
yeah,
for everything else that's going to go into run the property. And it really comes down to, we build a business so we make money every month.
yeah,
And if you're making money every month, I love the one, man, that 1%, if you can make $3,000 a month in net, as opposed
yeah,
to, because like, the long-term 1% is, can it rent for 1% of the purchase price? So can it rent for $3,000? You're buying it for $300,000. Well, that's not necessarily going to make sure you're making that much money. You might make $300. Whereas you're
yeah.
looking at, I want to make $3,000 net cash flow on top of everything.
Yeah, yeah. I only look at net because that's like the living off rentals is like my that's my podcast. That's what I talk about. Like that's the amount that I can take to the grocery store and pay for my groceries with. I can pay my personal mortgage with. I can live off that amount. I can't live off gross. I hear too many people online talk about their 7-figure business, and it's like they're making 7 figure, they're making $1 million, but then they're paying 1.1 million and all their marketing and stuff, a year. And so it's like, I don't care how much money you're making. How much money are you keeping? Tell
Most
me about
people,
that.
they'll tout, this is how much money we make. And like, do you really make that much? Like, is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
after all, like, is that net in your pocket
yeah,
profit? No, it's
no,
almost every single time, other than like people like me and you. And there's a few other certain people who are in the space of like podcasting and coaching, all that sort of stuff. We're much more of like, let's talk about the net. I don't care how much, like, if you make $1 million
yeah,
and then you have to spend, let's say, $975,000. So you're making $25,000. That's too much headache for 25,000. That's stupid. I wouldn't do that.
yeah,
And so what I look at is, how much profit am I making? If I'm making profit,
yeah.
then that's why I always say, I like the benchmark for long term. Let's try to get a $500 a month in cash flow from these
Hmm.
properties. And then if you have it for 12 months, that's $6,000. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's really good for a long-term property.
Hmm.
So I talk about the cash flow. I don't talk about,
Right.
oh yeah, you're going to make, $40,000 a year on this property. No, you're not
Yeah.
making that.
Yeah. And to your point too, around being a manager of capital, you're just allocating capital and everybody has a defined amount, only a certain amount of capital. And so you want to allocate that in the place that's going to pay you back the highest for every dollar that you invest. I mean, that's as simple as it gets. And people try to get all complex and fancy um, but at the end of the day, that's the measuring stick of how well you are or how good you do at allocating capital.
Yeah, go ahead and stop sharing for a second. So
Oh yeah.
my thought is, most people would jump right to, well, how do we find the properties? How do we get the money for the properties? Which you and I know, finding and the money, like the financing, those are easy. But what we want to do is make sure that for longevity, we want to make sure we own this property and it makes money for us every single month. So I want to talk about, how do you make sure you manage it? Because I know you have a number of properties in a
Mm.
certain area that you built out a really good business, that you have the right people that are doing it for you instead of hiring a third party, which third party is great too. But
Mhm.
what would your suggestion be if I'm going to get my first property and I want to buy or my son really wants to do it, buys his first property. He wants to do exactly what you're doing. How do we then make sure we're getting the right people and managing it, or getting somebody else to manage it for longevity and making cash flow?
Mhm. Great question. Yeah, because you can buy the most profitable deal in the world, and if you have bad management, you're not going to make any money. Um, so if I was buying long-term rentals, I would for sure just get the best property manager in the area to manage it because it's 8 to 10%, and it just you're not going to save that by managing it yourself. It's just such a small amount that it makes sense to outsource that. When it comes to short-term rentals, you start to question that a little bit more because the average is about 25%. I mean, it's 20 to 30% is what most people pay for a short-term rental property manager. And so if you think about the gross, I mean, this past year we brought in close to about 1.2 million gross, on our portfolio. Um, and so if I paid 25% of that, I'm paying over $300,000 to a property manager. And if you start thinking about what their role is, it's really to hire a handyman and cleaner. Like most of them aren't even local, they're remote. And so I was like, well, what if I just do that myself and cut out the 25% middleman? And so that's what we did. And initially on the first one, we were doing, some of that stuff ourselves. Like we were hiring the handyman, we were hiring the cleaner, we were responding to all the guests, which is great. I think you learn a lot from doing that. Then we started adding a few virtual assistants, full-time team members based out of the Philippines that are phenomenal, have years of experience doing this, and they're around $8 an hour is what we pay them, which is extremely affordable, but that's a really high pay compared to the average in the Philippines. And so we've saved, I mean, we have 4 full-time team members, and at $8 an hour full time, that's like 65,000 a year, something like that, compared to 300,000 that we would have paid to a property manager. And I would argue they're way better because they're managing just our properties using our system. So that's my advice around, like, initially, with one property, it's very easy to do. Reply to guests, you're going to line up the handyman and cleaner. And then as you grow, you can organically scale your team with the size of your portfolio. And we just keep adding another team member as we add more properties. But it's a very small hit to our net cash flow.
Man, I love that plan. When you think about it, I mean, everybody wins when you go that route. It's a little more work, but in the end,
Mhm.
when you do build out your own business where you have your employees that are only handling your stuff, my goodness, they get better and better at handling your stuff.
Mm,
And obviously, as you're overseeing your business, making sure they're doing it right, making sure that everything is going the way that you want it to go, then man, just economies of scale, just adding another property, you're not adding a whole nother line item of expense
yeah.
onto it.
Yeah. And like right after this call, I have my weekly team call with the 4 team members, and it's once a week over Zoom, and we all get on. It's like the middle of the night where they are, but they're used to working kind of odd hours. And we sync on everything that we need to discuss. And then beyond that, it's just on Zoom. After their shift, they report on what bookings happen, what cleanings happen, any issues that came up, any guest, questions or issues. So I can monitor what's happening, but I'm not involved in any of the day to day. I don't have to take bookings. I don't have to line up cleaners or respond to guests or anything like that. It's almost fully automated. I'll jump in here and there. But it's a fraction of the cost of a property manager.
And you would probably already have like a list of handyman, contractors, plumbers, and all that sort of stuff that if
Exactly.
there's something, they would take care of the problems.
Exactly. Yep.
Now, so if they're in the Philippines, it doesn't matter where your properties are. If you have some in Michigan or some in Florida, it's all the same thing. They just have to have different contacts of who to contact to clean and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And our guests, like almost all of them think that they're right down the street. Like they would come over and bring them a cup of sugar if they needed it, because they speak perfect English. They know Michigan City inside and out. They have answered every question that's ever been asked. Like they're trained on the nuance of how to respond in certain situations because you start to develop sort of a spidey sense around different like booking requests and stuff that come in. And so, nobody ever knows that they're located in the Philippines. It's the same process whether you're down the street or across the world.
You know what's interesting? So I had, and as you get, because I'm so glad you bought the bigger property that got huge tax break, but as you're playing Monopoly, eventually you scale your business, and every investor goes through this. If you continue to be an investor, and that's why I
Mhm.
bring out the roadmap last year at RubeCon, which is now called Income Building Live. I brought out the roadmap that every investor has to go through. And part of it is scaling and scaling your business. And then you don't have enough time to be able to take care of everything. And so I have, I don't know, let's say 10 properties in Akron and in that area, in Akron area. And I thought, you know what? I could manage it myself, But then I found a decent property manager, and then I realized how much of my brain power that I'm going to have to put towards,
Yeah.
and it's not a ton, it's long term, it's not a ton, but it's like there's 10 properties, that's 10 potential things that pop up. I have so many other things that I got to do on my plate for everything.
Yeah.
And then I looked at it's only going to save me 500 bucks a month. Like that's the whole cost was 500 bucks. I'm like, I would gladly pay 500 bucks for to have somebody,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
somebody else like me, like what, 15 years ago, I'd be like, $500, that's a lot of money. I better, like, I'm going to do it myself. So I have that money. But now I'm like, I'm so glad I get to pay $500. Now you're like, I'm so glad I got to buy this $600,000 home because look at this huge tax write-off. As
Yeah.
you grow as an investor, these things that you never thought or even knew were there, they start propping up, and you're like, I have to really start to understand time. But then at the same time, on top of that, what's my time worth? And then
Mhm.
now you're like, okay, I'm able to offload that time from my property manager or the money from my property manager, but I hire people. And so it's just every investor goes through this process.
Yes, absolutely. In the beginning, I would have done anything to just be able to make enough money to pay the bills. Like I'll work 24/7. I don't, I'll sacrifice whatever it takes because that's what you do in the beginning. But then over time, like you said, return on time just becomes equally, if not more important than return on investment.
You know what's funny? Like, tell me a little bit. So you have an amazing podcast, Living Off Rentals. You coach people too. Honestly, like it's so for me, it's a billion times easier to invest in real estate and do all this
Yeah.
online business.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
also like the Income Building Live, like that conference takes up,
Oh my
it's like three
gosh.
months of my life leading up to it.
I
I'm
can't
just, that's
imagine.
all I think about. And it's not, I mean, it's definitely stress there, but it's just constantly on my brain, occupy my time. I'm like, and I said this to my wife about a year ago. I was like, babe, I kind of want to just, it would be nice to not have anything to stress about and just go back to investing in real estate. It's so much
Yeah.
easier than everything else that we're doing.
Oh, I know. I know. And it would be, I think, but especially for you, I mean, the size audience that you have and the community you have, the number of lives that you've positively impacted by doing that. And I'm sure that's the only thing that gets you out of bed and keeps you doing it because you're right. You could just own a bunch of properties and kind of lay low and you'd have a really great life. But at some point you ask, it's not about just being able to sit there and do nothing. It's about how can I impact as many people as
You're
possible.
you're 100% right. And that's the only reason why I don't stop doing everything is because I'm an extrovert. Definitely love going walking down the halls of the conference and talking to people and encouraging people. I love it when they look at me and say, "Hey, Dustin, I got this. I got that." It's not about me. It's they're telling me what they're doing, what they've done.
Yeah.
And I was there along the ride with them and gave them some pointers and stuff. That makes me feel like $1 million. That thing makes me feel so much
Yeah.
better than just sitting around going golfing or I don't know, doing whatever. That's just not benefiting other people. And so, yeah, it's just much easier doing real estate. And so I'm glad I have both because I have an outlet
Yeah.
to serve people, and then I have a lot of money coming in from from my
Yes,
real estate. Now, Kirby,
exactly.
so is what else should I have talked about? Did I miss anything that is like, man, we if somebody's going to go down this route of going down the short-term property, they really need to hear this.
I think we've covered a lot with when it comes to short-term rentals. The last thing I would just say is one thing that was like kind of the turning point for me because I talked about how I did a lot of flips and everything before getting into this strategy, and it was 2016 really. I'd just been married the year before, and when I was flipping and everything, I was going to a lot of these conferences that are very different than the Income Builder Live conference. It was a lot of gurus on stage showing all their rented private jet and Bentley that they took pictures in front of, and it was like, this is what you need to do to have the things that I have. And it was like, I kind of like just thought that was the goal because I never sat down and said, what does my ideal life look like? And what am I actually working toward? And so it was after I got married that kind of like spurred this in me because I was like, okay, now I'm married. We want to have a family. What does that look like? Where do we want to live? We realized we want to live on a farm. Um, it wasn't going to require the same amount of capital that would be required to buy a private jet and buy a Bentley, which I had no desire to own anyway. I drive an old pickup truck that I just love. So it was like the most important first step to me is to get super clear on the outcome that you're after personally. What's your ideal lifestyle by design? And then you can backwards plan. And when I did that, it was like night and day. It was like the clouds parted, and all of a sudden I could make decisions because before that, there's 1,000 different great opportunities out there. And I was chasing all the, like everyone would bring me a deal, and I chased down this commercial deal in Arkansas that I knew nothing about, and it wasted a week of my life. And then I realized that's not the best use of my time. Like, what's going to actually get me to my ideal lifestyle the quickest? And let's do that strategy, be the best at that strategy. And I could then make decisions that led me to that outcome. So many people I talk to have never done that. They have no idea what they're working towards, just more. The answer is always more money, more everything. And it's like, if that's the goal, good luck. You're going to be on the more train forever.
Forever.
Yeah. So I'd say that's my best piece of advice because that changed everything for me.
Man, that's fantastic. Such good advice. And everybody, you definitely need to check out and listen to Living Off Rentals, great podcast. And then Kirby, how else can people find you? Find you on social media or, anything else that where they can find you?
Yeah, I'd say you can go to like livingoffrentals.com is my site. There's at livingoffrentals.com/start. There's a web class that I did there that kind of walks you through my strategy. If you want to check that out, you can book a call with me. Just go to livingoffrentals.com/call, and you can set up a call with me. And I'm happy to chat with you if you're interested in this strategy, if you're interested in working with me, either way, that's probably the best place.
Fantastic. Kirby, super pumped to have you at Income Building Live. It's going to be
Me
awesome
too.
to get you on the main stage, just educating people, helping people, and good to hang out with you again.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me, man.
And that is it for today. Go ahead and get my free real estate investing course. Text the word rental to 33777, RENTAL to 33777. You can also join my Real Estate Wealth Builders group coaching. Get all my courses. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next show. See ya.